Food security is an ideal that the African continent is working hard to achieve. One of the continent's major initiatives is the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, CAADP. This program is supported by the African Union, whose ambition is clear: to eradicate hunger and poverty on the continent.
CAADP is the Comprehensive Agricultural Rural Development Program, and it has been one of the most successful and impactful blueprints with universal acceptance across the continent. Its main goal is really to transform agricultural food systems in the countries.
With the success of CAADP implementation over the next 10 years, we want to see an improvement in food and nutrition security of the continent. We want to see farmers having food on their table and money in their pocket.
The program was launched in 2003 at the second ordinary session of the AU Assembly in Maputo, Mozambique. During this meeting, African states and governments formulated and adopted commitments contained in the Maputo Declaration on Agriculture and Food Security in Africa. In this declaration, they pledged, among other things, to allocate at least 10% of national budget to agriculture and rural development.
Each country was to develop a national agriculture investment plan. And that plan was supposed to be used in conjunction with national development plans, to set the stage for member states to transform agriculture within the countries. In 2014, we went to Malabo, and unfortunately at Malabo, African heads of states and government realized that member states had not been doing what they promised to do. So the expenses in agriculture goes to recurring expenses like fuel for vehicles, salaries, and so forth. So what some of us have been saying is that a portion of that 10% should go directly to investment, agriculture investment.
From 2003 to 2014, more than 10 years after the Maputo Declaration, no significant progress had been made. Most states have not achieved the promised and agreed 10% budget allocation target. Moreover, many member states had not drawn up their national agricultural investment plans. This led to further declarations after periods of program evaluation to better adapt the objectives to the realities of the continent.
Maputo was 2003, and then Malabo 2014, and the Kampala Declaration, which has just recently been endorsed by heads of states and government of the African Union. And basically, the Kampala Declaration is not very different from the previous declarations. It builds on the last two. But the major change is now that we are focusing more on agri-food systems rather than agriculture as we did in the past, rather than agriculture production.
We now have the Kampala Declaration of 2026 up to 2035. And in January 2025, Heads of State Summit was held in Kampala, Uganda, and they approved two things: the 10-year Kampala CAADP Strategy and Action Plan and the Kampala Declaration. We are not starting anything new. We are continuing from where we have been. We just consolidated the issues.
The new Kampala Declaration includes 6 strategic objectives.
The first one is around agri-food systems, food production, industrialization, and trade. The second one is about increasing finance in agriculture. The third one is about ensuring food security and nutrition. And the fourth one is advancing inclusivity, equitable livelihoods. We have a fifth, which is around building resilient food systems, resilient systems, livelihood systems. And then the sixth strategic objective is about agri-food systems governance.
With the Kampala Declaration and the CAADP 10-year action plan 2026 to 2035 now approved by the heads of state to transform Africa's agricultural systems and boost food security, all that remains is implementation. With this new declaration, they commit to increasing Africa's agri-food production by 45% by 2035.
If you have a vision, then you have a direction. So when it comes to whether the targets that have been set in Kampala are realistic, what is important is that we know where we are going. And now it is our role, all of us, to play that role of ensuring that those targets are translating into practical implementation actions. If it's been put there, there's science to back it, but there's also goodwill from the national governments to ensure this is achieved. What is most important is that progressive realization of those targets. So if we have said 45% in year one, where were we? If we were at 5%, what has been the jump? Let's draw lessons. How do we put more effort to get to 15%, to get to 20%, to get to 30%? And by the time we're doing 5 years, we are closer to that 45% target. It all takes commitment and dedication, but also focus.
The main question that remains is how to get African states to actually meet these commitments. For some years now, the implementation of this program has benefited from the participation of the CAADP non-state actors group, made up of CSOs, NGOs, farmers' organizations, journalists, and private sector players. This entity plays a crucial role in running the program. It mobilizes local players and influences policy by holding government to account.
The CAADP non-state actor group is a collective of several entities that have come together to have a unified voice when it comes to transforming agri-food systems on the continent. So everyone who is not government is part of our collection and our collective. So CNG's role is to ensure that we broaden accountability, we strengthen accountability of the CAADP commitments that were made by the heads of state and the declarations that have the 10-year plans. Our role as non-state actors is to ensure that governments stick to those commitments, the 10% allocation, but also that commitment to have agriculture growth based on productivity increase, but also increasing intra-trade amongst African nations, but also boosting indicators such as food security and nutrition security for the people of the continent.
We organize joint events where we are disseminating the results at the regional level, at the country levels, trying to ensure that countries and the regions uptake the recommendations coming from the African Union at the end of every biannual review cycle, so that as they are planning or reviewing their agricultural budget of the preceding year, they're able to integrate some of these issues. One key stakeholders that we were engaging were the parliamentarians, because we also knew that they had a role to play. You know, they were the ones that legislate the budget into laws. They were the ones that also enforces that agricultural budget allocation, is made in the proper way.
From June 10 to 12, 2025, the CAADP non-state actors group organized a strategic workshop on the Kampala Declaration in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The aim was to draw lessons on CAADP implementation, harmonize priorities, refine the group's collective action strategy for inclusive CAADP implementation, and approve the group's rule of procedure.
So we said as non-state actors, we were given slots of what our roles should be. Let us come together and strategize on how we are going to show up. Lessons that we have learned from the past 2 decades of implementing Malabo, of implementing Maputo. How do we bring it together to ensure the next 10 years lead to real changes building from the lessons learned? So this is a very opportune time because we want to be fully armored to ensure that we work together as a collective, share ideas, but ensure that this network is growing stronger in countries where we're probably working in isolation.
This workshop still underscores the importance of inclusivity, in the CAADP process. Looking at the way CAADP has been implemented over the years, the last 20 years, there has been a noted continuous improvement when it comes to stakeholders' engagement. And by stakeholders, I'm making reference to the non-state actors.
The workshop brought together representatives of the non-state actors group, young people committed to agriculture, farmers group, media players, the private sector, and NGOs.
We have solidified and affirmed our commitment to the process, but also we realize that this is not a destination, it is a process and will continuously evolve. But as we are evolving, we look at where are the different voices that are representing farmers, that are representing youth, that are representing women, that are representing all the actors, so that we can all collectively engage in this space. And another key takeaway is really to say that as we mobilize at continental level, we can only make meaningful impact and noticeable change when non-state actors are also engaging at national level.
Having learned lessons from Malabo and what Malabo has done, we definitely identify some key gaps that we hope that Kampala is going to address.
The impact are we're actually getting to meet with farmers and know their challenges. We're able to advocate to the government and push them to pay more attention into agriculture and also nutrition security. Because if we have good food, people will be healthy. So we are actually advocating for better systems, better educational systems, better food and nutrition systems, better partnerships.
The objectives have been defined and the path seems to have been mapped out towards a more climate-resilient African agriculture geared to the continent's prosperity. CAADP is therefore a strategic tool through which the African Union intends to encourage states to honor their commitments to achieving food security and reducing poverty. While CAADP's most ambitious objectives have yet to be achieved, growth in agricultural production remains positive. According to the 2010 report on trends and prospects in the agricultural sector by the Regional Strategic Analysis and Knowledge Management System (RISACS), agricultural growth in West Africa was 6.5% in 2008, compared with an average of 4.4% during the period 2003 to 2007 and 3.2% in the 19s.
My call to action is that each and every sector that finds itself as part of this CAADP strategy and action plan for the next 10 years, find your space and implement what you have seen you need to do. If we all implement what we need to do, I am so sure that African development through agriculture will grow greatly.